past few years, I think. And as we are all aware, Egypt is currently going through one of those, I would say, rare moments when a considerable segment of Egyptians have decided that they do not have to live any longer with this thing called sexual harassment. And of course, I'm talking about mainly about women and girls, female Egyptians in general. And despite the fact that over the past few years, there have been several attempts to combat sexual harassment, but throughout these years, I should say that there was a tendency, maybe some pressure, societal pressures or cultural pressures or whatever, to downplay the reasons. And of course, as we all know, it's not a secret that it's usually the women who take the burden of sexual harassment, and sometimes even they are blamed for this sexual harassment happening. Today, I think there is a very strong will, and I will say why there is a proof that there is a very strong will in order to combat this harassment. Today, we are having two very honorable speakers and very key speakers to this issue. We have our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Maya Morsy, who is the president of the National Council for Women. And of course, I have to say that the National Council of Women is on the forefront nowadays. I mean, they have been on the forefront for different issues, whether the empowerment of women, candidate women, encouraging women to go through elections and so on. So Dr. Maya is here with us, and I have to say that Dr. Maya has taken, as president of the National Council for Women, a very courageous step regarding sexual harassment in the past few days, and she has been encouraging women and girls who have been subjected to sexual harassment to file the formal reports regarding what happened. And of course, several steps, I'm sure she's going to elaborate more on them while we are in this event. And of course, our honorable AUC president, Mr. Ricciardone, who is joining us from Washington. I think this is a very, very early hour for you. So thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ricciardone. We're very honored that you are capable of attend with us this important session. We only have 1 hour, so I will ask first Dr. Maya, if you can just give us some, share with us your thoughts regarding the issue. Of course, we have been witnessing a certain incident, or actually a number of incidents that happened over the past few days. A person has been brought up to to media, probably through social media. This is where it all started. Some young ladies have been coming up saying that they were subjected to sexual harassment, and the National Council for Women took the lead. Can you give us an insight what has been happening and why you decided to take the lead? Dr. Maya, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Amina, for the introduction. Thank you, Mr. President, for hosting this important event. I'm really happy to be with you. I think what we are seeing nowadays is ringing the bell on a very important topic related to sexual harassment, but not only sexual harassment. It's very important that we notice that a lot of women, and especially young women, do not know that Egypt has a legislative umbrella for protection. Egypt has a constitution that stated clearly in Article 11 that the state commits to protection of women against all forms of violence. The legislative agenda has the penal code that includes abuse, abduction, rape, assault, sexual harassment. There is articles related to sexual harassment that has been amended in 2014, and the aggravation of the penalty also expanding the scope of discrimination to include the criminalization to include the family, school, work environment, and these forms represents a major step as well towards achieving safety for Egyptian women and girls in public and private spheres. The sexual harassment code or law is specifically having a definition saying physical gestures or material transmitted through social platforms or electronic platforms. Also, receiving sexual gratification from the victim being one of the closer circles in school, in work, in family, environment is also increasing the penalty on the criminal. There is also a law related to rape or sexual violence at large, and this law also states if there is action related to a minor below 18, the sentence is above 25, almost 25 years or life imprisonment. And if this is also done by 2 or more people in the same place. The indecent assault by force as well, which we call in Arabic hatqa ard, has another law, and also stated that if the victim is a minor, or the offender is one of the victim's guardians or someone in charge of rearing, observing, or having power over the victim, like what we call, in other words, abuse of authority, or in terms of work or in terms of educational institution, or is a paid servant or house help, to have an increase also in the penalty, because these are considered the safest circle of for young girls or women in her family space or work environment. There is also another penal code regarding indecent assault without a force. The penal code has main 3 elements: act of indecency against the victim, the criminal intent himself or of doing this action, and also the age of the victim. And if we notice that the age of the victim is actually repeated several times, because when we say it is a consent of an 8 years, 7 years, or 15 years below the age of 18, it is not considered consent. Also, we have the Anti-Cyber and Information Technology Crimes law that is related to texting, or related to sharing information, or relating to putting also putting material that is of abuse to the victim. It has also another law, and this is also being subjected to whoever intentionally uses information program or information technology to have sexual actions, or creates or manage or use of websites or private accounts without consent or commission legally punishable crime. The Egyptian efforts towards the protection has, as you saw in the past few days, the drafting the law on confidentiality of data regarding the victims of sexual harassment and assault, amending provisions of current criminal law to ensure that the names, the addresses, and the info of a victim is not are not announced and not shared. And also the draft law that has been approved last week from the cabinet, which is about criminalizing bullying, amending some provisions of the penal code as well, which sometimes the bullying reach out to sexual harassment or sexual assault, and it escalated to other levels of criminology. What we are working on. And the last law that has been issued also last week is the protection of personal data. The President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi actually had ratified the law, and it has moved to the final step, which is the law aims towards securing the personal data of all citizens, and the personal data should be used by the approval of the person themselves, and with no authorization, it will be moving to a criminal set. With all this legislative amendments highlighted, and the legislation that has been there before even the incident that has been announced in the public media, we realize that not a lot of women, although there is awareness, although there is big social campaigns on legislation, and that they are protected and that the state is protecting them through the legislation, they don't know that these laws exist. And what we understood as well, that they are, because they don't know that there is a law, they are more afraid of speaking up, and they are more afraid from reporting or sending a complaint. But as the National Council for Women, we are standing strong with all Egyptian women. And what we need is to make sure that they have the info, they know where to go, and they know where to issue a complaint. And we cannot, I cannot end my statement without actually saying that there is a strong political will from the president downward to the protection of the Egyptian girls and Egyptian women. There is a very strong commitment from the general prosecutor at large, and we really commend his efforts in the last case of moving forward very quickly. And as the National Council for Women, as I said, we are at your service to receive complaints and to discuss with the victim, and to have a legislative or legal support throughout her case. Thank you very much, Amina.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maya, and thank you for ending the introductory remarks with such positive words. Women now, Egyptian women, have the information, and more of them will be having more information in the near future. They know where to go, and there is a strong political will for this, in addition, of course, to the many steps that will be taken by different institutions, and different institutions talking about AUC, American University in Cairo, which is, again, my beloved American University in Cairo, and Dr. Maya as well, she's an alumna of the AUC. Going to Mr. President from Washington, could you also please share with us your thoughts as well as the actions taken by AUC, especially that what brought the issue to the forefront the past few days happened because the accused individual of the sexual harassment was a former student at AUC. Can you just please, Mr. President, share with us your thoughts and maybe if you have plans for the future regarding how to combat sexual harassment within AUC? Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Amina, for guiding our discussion today, and to Dr. Maya also for your wonderful work with this important element of civil society, the National Council for Women. We're very proud of you because many in NCW, both of you for being AUC alumni, and NCW has so many of our alumni in your organization. So congratulations, we take great pride in you. Yes, this particular incident did precipitate national and even international attention on the question of women's rights in Egypt, sexual harassment in Egypt, and at AUC. So we at AUC have had a tradition of teaching and promoting dignity and respect for all, and awareness of the rights of all, and the responsibilities of each of our students as they become citizens, adult citizens, toward each other and toward their country. Gender equality has been part of that. We were among the first, long before the great American Ivy League universities admitted women. We did in 1925, 5 years after our founding. We had the great Doria Shafiq speak at AUC, and we celebrated her March on Parliament from our Ewart Hall when we had our centennial year celebration over the past year. So we have a tradition of paying attention to this. What are we doing these days? Well, we had a policy in place. We had strengthened that policy over the years. I've been at AUC now 4 years. I'm starting my 5th year. Having a strong policy is not enough. Having in place the procedures and the machinery to enforce the policy is necessary, but also not enough, not sufficient. Something that you just said, Dr. Maya, is really important. You said that women don't know about the law and the protections that are there. Many of our women and men at AUC, our young men and our young women, our students, our faculty and staff, are not sufficiently aware of the policy and of the machinery, the apparatus, the bureaucracy, if you will, the administration that is there to support them and to advance the policy and protect the rights. So we have a strong zero tolerance policy. We have procedures and places you can go if you are either a victim, believe you're a victim, or you've witnessed abuses of the policy. And we're strengthening that. And then finally, we have to do a better job communicating. So I'm proud of our record on this, but I'm never satisfied. Any great institution, any institution that wants to go from good to great can never be complacent. You have to recognize you can always do better, and AUC is no exception. So we're strengthening, we reviewed the policy, making sure that's strong. We found out we've got to be more explicit on elements of that policy, like non-fraternization, it's called in American higher ed. We're going to have more explicit policies laid out on that. The machinery, we're elevating what had been the counselor. We used a term from American law called Title IX. It doesn't mean much in Egypt. Basically, it has to do with protecting students, ensuring gender equality, equal access to all academic programming, and protection against sexual harassment. But that office had been focused on students. We're elevating that formerly Title IX office, renaming it to capture what it does. We've had a senior administrator there named Reem Al-Maghrabi. She will go from being the Title IX officer to being the head of the Office of Institutional Equity. To make really clear, it covers not only students, but also students and their interactions with faculty and staff. It's not just student-on-student questions, as in this instant case that was in the media, but it covers all cases of students or others who feel they have been either a victim or a witness. So we're elevating that office, broadening the scope of the office, having that office report directly to the president. So there's no question that that office has clout, has real authority, does not have to go through many layers of bureaucracy to get attention. We also do that to make clear it will protect confidentiality. It will draw on the resources across the university, but not have to share information beyond those with a strict need to know. So we're strengthening that office that was already quite strong and capably led. Finally, again, going back to this point that not enough people know, we have to do a better job on communicating. That doesn't just mean publicizing, certainly that too, but also training. We need to methodically make sure we train everyone. We had already built into our orientation program segments on gender equality and anti-harassment. We will strengthen those and then repeat them, not just inoculate people once when they come in as students. We'll remind people every year, students, faculty, and staff, of what the rules are, what their obligations are. It's not just a matter, as Dr. Maya said, of course, rape and assault are obvious crimes. There are also things that are not okay. Bullying, cyberbullying, unwanted sexual advances, body shaming, behavior that, any young man or woman for that matter would be embarrassed in front of one's mother or father. That is not acceptable on AUC's campus. And even if it doesn't reach the level of criminal violations, on AUC campus, we promote a culture of civility and respect for all. So communications, strong policy, strong implementing procedures, and strong communication and training. I'd say are the three elements of what we hope will be an even more successful cultural renewal in AUC, as we were discussing before. And part of the great cultural renewal that I sense is happening and needs to happen in any country, but in Egypt where we are, of course.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And before going back to Dr. Maya, I just want to build a question on what you just mentioned. And thank you for saying that you are proud of AUC's record regarding the channels taken by AUC in order to combat sexual harassment. But you will never be satisfied because you're hoping for better and zero tolerance and so on. But can you just shed a light very quickly on, say, if a student goes and reports a case of being subjected to sexual harassment? I know there is the Office of Equal Opportunities, and there's a page on AUC, I think it's called AUC Speak Up and so on. If she reports a case in the office, for example, and then the office does not do enough, what does this student do? Does she go directly and tap the door on Mr. Ricciardone and ask for help, or what could she do? Thank you.
Well, actually, students do come to me in all manner of things that they shouldn't have to or don't. I mean, some students still even come to me with complaints about their grades. And of course, I refer them to their deans and faculty members. But I'm not being facetious here. Clearly, we will respond. We do respond. When we hear this folklore, we hear rumors, oh, someone complained and nothing happened. We've actually, since this latest incident, gone back to look at even rumored cases. And we find a lot is simply not accurate that's out there. We can't respond to rumors. We do respond to complaints. When we get an official complaint, we act on it, we keep a record of it, and we acted appropriately in the case that that was at issue in the past controversy. That was a case from several years ago. We checked the record, we did respond, and we responded in accordance with our policies. There will be a response. I will get, now that this office is reporting to me, I will get periodic reporting, whether instant reporting, but also monthly summaries. We'll do more to publish the summaries of reportings without betraying confidentiality. That's a bright red line for us. We have to protect names and identities and details that would give away the identity. Otherwise, that will chill the instinct to report. We want to encourage complaints. We want to encourage timely, accurate reporting. And by the way, I mean, you mentioned victims complaining. We also encourage people to step forward who may have not been victims themselves, but who have witnessed instances of abuse. Or maybe they're reporting on behalf of a friend who's too terrified for one reason or another, and that's another layer to do it. But it does have to be you know, close witnessing, not just hearsay, not just rumors, to enable us to act. So go to this Office of Institutional Equity. If in a reasonable period of time there isn't a response, by all means, an email to the Office of the President, we'll pay attention. We do pay attention.
Thank you very much. So email, not tap the door, right?
Or come to the door, but in a time of COVID, you will find that
of course.
we're all working all the time electronically, even if we're not physically present in an office.
Of course, Mr. Ricciardone, of course. Thank you very much. And going to Dr. Maya Morsy, and of course, Mr. Ricciardone just mentioned things about rumors. Not all cases, of course, are real cases, and not all cases are rumors as well. I'm asking you about the social media, because most of the cases that have been reported so far, they started from the social media. Even the famous Me Too movement started from the social media. And you, Dr. Maya, I think we are blessed to have you in the National Council for Women, because you are into social media as well. And regarding the recent case as well that started all this, I think it would be the Egypt Me Too movement. What is the National Council for Women doing, or what plans does the National Council for Women have regarding, what happens on the social media, whether it is coming up on behalf of the victims or the victims themselves speaking up, or as well threatening survivors of sexual harassment on social media as well? What are you doing, and what advice can you offer us?
Actually, thank you very much, Amina, for the interesting question. As Mr. President has said, we cannot follow rumors as well. We have to be very cautious of what is presented on the social media. We have to make sure that the stories are right. So we can contact whoever is putting a complaint or a case. So we connect, even if they don't know us, we connect with them. The other thing is the cyber violence. We consider it cyber violence at this stage. Sexual harassment has moved to the social media platforms, and we are seeing a lot of bullying. We're seeing a lot of blackmailing. Actually, we're seeing a lot of sexual abuse on the cyber as a cyber violence. So we are working closely with the Ministry, Engineer Amr Talat, the Ministry of ICT and Technology, to have a wide campaign to know and to inform the new generation of the abuse on regarding social media. There is good things on social media and there is bad things on social media. Your electronic stamp should not be shared with anyone. Your password should not be shared with anyone. Your photos should, before posting a photo, you should make sure that this photo will stay with you. This is a history. Yeah? In our generation, Amina, we were writing our CV. Right now, everyone, if you are getting anyone for a certain job, you're going to check who is she on Facebook, or what they are doing, so that you have another life that people might feel safe space, but they are not safe at all. They are not safe at all. And this is what we're keeping on telling men and women, young generation. Please don't give your passwords. Don't chat with people that you don't know. Don't feel comfortable that you're staying at your own room and you're not connecting with a physical person, but you are actually saying all your life on social media. We are working on a big campaign on this cyber violence, and raising awareness on the legislation, also on social media, because our work was going to the grassroots level, to villages, hamlets, and all this. But we did not expect, to tell you the truth, Amina, that the problem also of not knowing the legislation is on people who are educated, knowing, reading and writing, all this. So we were actually shocked by the absence of knowledge there. So we are taking our campaigns a little bit up and working with other ministries to raise awareness on the problems of cyber violence at large.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maya. And going back to Mr. Ricciardone, and I have a question about AUC again. I mean, from my experience in the good old days, and I know this is going on until now, AUC has always been known for being progressive, you know, when it comes to dealing or tackling issues that are, you know, feared in the community, that it's supposed to be a taboo, something that people should not talk about, and so on. But nowadays I see like Cairo University boasts of this special unit, anti-harassment unit within Cairo University, which is a big move. It's a very progressive move as well. What about AUC? Of course, I know you are taking lots of steps, and you have special like offices and special channels to report sexual harassment and so on. But is AUC planning to dedicate a special body, for example, to tackle the issue of sexual harassment? Do you have this as a plan?
At AUC, we are here in service to Egypt, and we are not. We don't stay within our walls and stay all alone and imagine we're something isolated. We can't thrive that way. We can't really serve Egypt that way. We have to be part of a national conversation on any issue. So when this latest case flared up, we looked around to find out what are best practices. What is Egypt doing? I'm delighted to find that NCW had already been working with the government on this new legislation. And then I had not been aware personally, although I found out that many of my faculty were aware, that Cairo University already had excellent progress on this front. Under the previous president whom I had met, Governor Nassar, who's returned to private practice, he continues to support from outside higher ed. That we found that Professor Saeed is at Cairo University, and she has been leading a great movement there for some years that our faculty, some of our faculty had been aware of and in touch with. We're strengthening those very ties. Our general counsel met with Dr. Governor Nassar and spoke at least. Maya, I know you've connected with her, with Sunanda. By the way, at AUC, much of our leadership are women. Not because they're women, but because they're great people. And that's how they got selected in the job. And it turns out more than half of my senior advisors and vice presidents are women. So our general counsel has been in touch now with counterparts at Cairo University. We do a lot of what we do in Egypt in connection with the other great national universities, private and public, in many, many areas. This is a new area that, for us, it's a new area on which to engage with them. And we're delighted to establish this, we've just begun this conversation with Cairo U. We all learn from each other. you know, we universities, we in higher education are part of civil society, something where we have a very high purpose of continuous cultural renewal, as we were discussing a little earlier. And we can only do that by adopting and adapting the best practices from each other. Is there an element of competition? I suppose there is, but really there's more collaboration, because we're each learning new things. We're each discovering what works and what doesn't work. And the challenges are different. The challenges are different in scale, I should say. There's a lot of, the core issues can often be the same, of sexual harassment, let's say, the topic at hand. But if you're AUC with 6,500 students, we have one dimension of the problem. If you're Cairo University with over 100,000 students, it's of heroic dimensions at a place like that. We can learn from people who are taking on challenges at heroic dimensions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ricciardone, and I will borrow from your words what you said about continuous cultural renewal, and this is the main issue, I think, in Egypt nowadays, one of the main issues. And going back to Dr. Maya, and of course, you know that sexual harassment is an issue of power, or maybe lack of power, or maybe empowerment. Or, it has to do with power anyway. And in order to address it, I think we have to address culture, because what type or amount of power women have or don't have has to do with culture. Can you share with us your thoughts regarding that? Especially, of course, the National Council of Women is not only dealing with sexual harassment, but it's dealing with the empowerment of women. And of course, this has to do a lot with culture.
Thank you, Amina, for the question. I just want to add to Mr. President that Cairo University is one of the champions regarding anti-harassment or violence against women unit. We have 21 universities in Egypt that have, we worked with them to establish anti-harassment and anti-violence units. So we are ready to give all the experience of all the universities as well, from Cairo and Shams to Kafr Sheikh to Qina to Wadi, the New Valley, to the Arts Academy, and we are actually discussing with Al-Azhar at this moment as well. So there is a wide range of experience and expertise, and we are ready to put all the training package and manual in front of AUC. Going back to the empowerment or lack of empowerment to your question, Amina, actually it is every woman since her early age, she is powerful. The society and the pressure and the mindset around her is actually every single year taking part of her power. So until she reaches the status of powerless, and then we say that they are weak. The problem is not in us, the problem is in the community around us. This is why the renewal culture discourse is one of the things that we have to tackle highly. The change of the mindset, how we are perceiving women in our community, the change of the mindset, how men are perceiving their sisters, their brothers, their wives, their fiancés later. We were putting a hypothesis that whoever is more educated, they are respecting women more. Actually, it's not. This is it's how they are being brought up in their houses, in their homes, in their normal confined community. They are treating their fiancés, their wives, and their colleagues, their women colleagues later. So the bringing up and the relation between the child and his mother and his father is extremely important. So if I brought up the child from the beginning, whether he is a girl or a boy, on respecting of his sister, on respecting of his friends at the school, you're not allowed to bully, whether he is different or she is a girl, or seeing her weak or crying. You know, we have this sense of why you are crying, you are a man, but she has the right to cry. Huh? We are bringing our children on this way. So there is a perceived consciousness kida, in that she is weak. So once a man is, or a young child is perceiving the other person as weak, it's unconsciously there is power over. So how can we help women and men to have this stable relationship? It comes with the school, from the kindergarten, from the early childhood behavior to the school, to the primary, secondary, and comes to the university. The university, for me, is the last check, by the way. It's the last checkpoint, whether this person is going to be a harasser in the workforce and in the work sphere, or he is a respectable man. So it's not, we should put all the laws and legislations and the policies in the universities, but we have to make sure that we are raising our children right from the beginning, from the early beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maya, and I'll go back to Mr. Ricciardone, and I will merge two questions together because, I mean, these two questions came from students at AUC. One is about zero tolerance for sexual harassment, and the other about, I mean, something that Dr. Maya as well tackled now, it's about the change of the mindset, and it has to do with culture again. So at AUC, and I know you have mentioned the phrase zero tolerance to sexual harassment or zero tolerance policy to sexual harassment at AUC several times, and I think this is part of the policy at AUC. But maintaining or reaching this, target, it needs as well a change of the mindset, a positive change of the mindset. How can AUC do that? Because it's not only the administration of AUC that can do that, it's the administration, it's the faculty, it's the students, it's the research centers in cooperation with different bodies in Egypt, such as the National Council for Women.
Thank you. I mean, there's no single silver bullet, as we say, no pushing of a button and a magic response. It takes a deliberate institutional effort and an individual one among all the constituencies, formal channels and informal ones. You have, as I mentioned at the outset, strong policies which need continuous improvement and updating, strong mechanisms, institutional, administrative mechanisms to enforce it, strong communication of the policies and the means to enforce it through general communications, programs like this, but also then very specific training, which must be repeated and continuous and targeted for the different constituencies. Those are all things we're doing. And as we've also mentioned earlier, looking outside of our walls, working with the great institutions of state, the national universities, our brothers and sisters there. All of these ways are important, working with the media for that matter. There's a large role for the media there. It's this general awareness that is why universities exist, to develop aware citizens, aware of their rights, but aware of their obligations, what it means to be a citizen of a great country in our times. This is a complicated challenge, but it's the mission of universities. So I think we've got a good record, but as I say, we should always be looking forward because the world is moving forward. There's a wonderful quotation that I learned in Arabic, and I'll try to say it in Arabic, but it works in English as well. And I'm told it came from Ali ibn Abi Talib himself. And it's La Rabbuku, La Tarabbu Abnakum ala ma Rabbuku Abakum, لأن زمانهم ليس غير زمانكم. Do not teach your children what your fathers taught you, because your times are different from their times. We must always be looking forward and educating an awareness. When you say we're progressive, I guess that's what progressive means. Training people to be open to the future and not captive to the past. Never teaching that women are second class, powerless, always instilling a sense of confidence, ambition, forward-lookingness. That's what we try to do without discrimination on the basis of gender. I feel so passionate about this, maybe because I'm a father of daughters myself, and I've understood from their experiences, including at AUC. One daughter went to AUC, and their experience in Egypt, what it means to grow up as a young woman anywhere in the United States or in Egypt. So I care a lot about this. And I think at AUC, we're putting all these means into place with a real consciousness that we have a high mission to help raise our children for times that we have not seen and our fathers have not seen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I have one question to Dr. Maya before we move to our honorable guests who are attending this very important session with us. Dr. Maya, you're an AUC alumna, right? And I'm sure you have lots of memories, nice memories at AUC. You were a student there, and I would like to hear from you to share this experience with our guests and our listeners and viewers, of course. What sort of advice would you give to other students at AUC right now, especially that, Mr. Ricciardone just mentioned something about the sustainability of the procedures, how to maintain these policies of combating sexual harassment. It's not something that comes, for a few hours and then it fades away. It should be sustainable. Can you share this with us, please?
Amina, actually, our generation, the main experience, or what I should say, was respect. There was high respect among friends, and there was high respect between the students and their faculty and the professors. The mutual, I still have relationship with my professors. I still have respectable relationships with my friends and colleagues at the AUC. These ties were the big R. We never heard at that time about sexual harassment. Huh? We did not see it in our campuses. We saw respect. And if there is a dream, and thank you very much, Mr. President, for strengthening the policies, for communicating the policies. But if we at this, and actually for saying the statement of Ali ibn Abi Talib, if we are saying this, so my generation and Amina's generation are not fitting with the new generation even. We have a big gap between me and my son, between Amina and her daughters. There is a gap. So what we need is to have, translate this policy to a real code of ethics. We had the big R, which is respect. Let them grow on the big E, which is ethics. The ethics is extremely important. If they keep on hearing it, so having a policy is good, communicating the policy is great, but signing on the policy is what I'm going to study. If you have the signature from the students, from the professors, from the employees, from everyone on a code of ethics that they have to abide by in the university is important. Speaking about it very out loud in events, in the orientation, and talking about the term sexual harassment and not having it in another term. Sexual harassment, bullying, sexual assault. You are a student of AUC. You are carrying the brand, the name of AUC on your shoulders. So you have to respect what the institution that you are in, and leveraging on this name, because you're going to be one of the leaders of this country one day. This is what we are seeing. We have been brought up in the right direction. This is why we are in our places. It's the big R again. So we have respect between us and our employees. We have respect between us and our bosses. So there is this ethical value that is not changing. The respect and the ethics is something that we should really focus on. And my last idea to my beloved university, and it was heartbreaking. I told Mr. President when I saw the name of AUC, in this case, it was heartbreaking for me, because this is my university, and this is something that I would not ever have expected to come from. But if we have a mandatory online course that the students are taking in the freshman year, so they are passing it. It's no credit, no nothing but except that they have to pass through this online assessment and online course. We as UN earlier, we were doing these sexual harassment courses every year, by the way, men and women, safety and sexual harassment and policies. We are refreshing our mind on what is there and what is meant by abuse of authority as well. So it's extremely important to have it loud and clear. And maybe if the AUC would have done this course online, it could be translated also into Arabic to be used by other universities. So we have this exchange of experiences between the whole universities or higher education in Egypt. Also linking, I wanted to announce great names of great men in AUC who actually have spoken to me, and they said, this is not AUC and we are not all the same. Having a gender champion from men and in such a community as well would actually give a role model. This is the great man of this institution, and this is a powerful woman of this institution. We are really raising our generation in a way that we were not raised. We fight. We fought, Amina, very much to reach where we are in. But let us give them the big E, the ethics and the values and the things that they should actually graduate and take back to the community. And this is where we will see the renewal of the culture discourse, starting by students coming from AUC, Cairo University, and Shams, and other universities in Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maya. And before going to Mr. Ricciardone, I have to say that, of course, I share with you that you were heartbroken that the name of AUC maybe was linked to what happened. But looking on the bright side, actually, I was extremely proud when I saw that the AUC students, the female students, they came out and they were the ones who started, speaking up on, social media, and they were supported by their male friends, by the male students as well. And this goes back again to this issue about progressive thoughts in AUC and the progressive way of thinking at AUC, which I'm sure is going to make a big difference when it comes to sexual harassment. Mr. President, going back to you and borrowing from my dear friend, Dr. Maya, the big R and the big E. And there is a question that came now from one of our dear students, current students at AUC, and he or she said that, I'm not sure whether it's a he or she, she's, why do people in Egypt forget all about women's achievements in history and only think of them as second-rate individuals? I can sense a lot of anger in the words, but can you give us an answer to this dear student?
I can't give a simple answer. I can tell her I more than sympathize, again, as a father of daughters. Sadly, perhaps it's not unique to Egypt that women's accomplishments throughout history too often have not been celebrated or recorded. Egypt, on the contrary, has a tradition of some of the great names from thousands of years ago who have run this amazing country, from Hatshepsut to Cleopatra to Shagrat ad-Dur. You've had women leaders of this culture going way back to pre-Islamic times and even Islamic times. Why that is something I'm sure is the stuff of much literature in women's studies, which we do teach at AUC and gender studies. I would say to this young woman, don't let history hold you back. Don't let the lack of celebration of women's accomplishments in the past discourage you. If there's anything you take away from AUC, it should be boundless confidence in yourself and your creativity. I hope we've not taught you anything about restraints on your own or caps on what you can accomplish. The only constraints on your behavior should be ethics and respect for others. But within those constraints, whether you are a male or a female doesn't matter in terms of what you can accomplish. That's what we try to teach at AUC. We're very proud that 57% of our students are female, half of our faculty are female, much of our leadership are female, and we've got a history. So it is more than, it's not enough to be a safe place to be a student, male or female. it's got to be a great place where everybody is unleashed. And to that young lady, I hope you feel empowered and unleashed at AUC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ricciardone. And I have a great question actually from our dear friend and colleague, journalist from Al-Ahram, Ms. Naveen Shahata. It's a mini PhD thesis about the reasons behind sexual harassment, and I'll try to summarize what she said, and I'll take both responses from Dr. Maya and from Mr. Ricciardone. She says sexual harassment is an issue of lack of ethics, again, and morals. Do we need to renew media and cultural discourse in parallel to the religious discourse to confront unprogressive thought? Can we make use of drama to face moral issues? How can we spread awareness in schools and universities by offering training courses and seminars to educate girls how to defend themselves? And I would add to what my dear friend Naveen said, and how to educate boys as well, because it takes two to tango, as they say. Dr. Maya, and then I will listen to Mr. Ricciardone.
I would love to answer the question of a second-class citizen. Actually, never, and I'm talking to all girls, students who are watching us now, never think of yourself as a second-class citizen, because you are not. If it comes to your heart, just say, I am not, because what you're feeling actually is going to be reflected to the people in front of you, and they will treat you as a second-class citizen because it's your feeling. We are not second-class citizens. We are equal by constitution. We are equal in front of the law. We are equal in the reaching out to decision-making, and we are pushing the glass ceiling. So never think that you are a class citizen, and never second-class citizen, and never give this impression, because please, you are not. You are a full citizen. You are on equal footage by constitution as your male colleague, whether inside the university, whether inside the school, or whether you are in a workforce. So it is not the right feeling or perception. You have to get rid of it. The excellent question of Ms. Shahata from Al-Ahram, the renewal of the culture discourse, whether it's media, drama, songs, or training in schools, is extremely important, because actually, if we're going back to the statement of Mr. President that we should not teach our children what we have been taught because they are in a new generation, it also applies to the drama, to the media, and to the songs. They are listening to songs and drama and media and other venues that we were not raised to. And I beg from my place here, whoever is writing lyrics of a song, please be careful, but because your lyrics might actually create a momentum that you would be sorry for later. If you're showing a drama, show respect and show ethics in the drama, because other generation is watching and imitating you, and this is coming to their unconscious, and it will be reflected in one action or another. The schools are the younger generation. When I say the primary and the preparatory and the secondary are mostly affected by all these media, drama, songs, and other things. But again, if we are asking the universities to have the R and to have the E, ethics and respect, it should be the whole community. If we want to have a renewal cultural discourse, we have to talk to our children in a different way, and the media has to help us in this. We have to have respectable lyrics in songs. And I would go back again when there was a big song that everyone was watching, and the National Council for Women came on a complaint to the Facebook saying that this song has a lot of lyrics that would actually initiate harassment, initiate bullying, have a tone of abuse of authority on women. People were not supporting us, and the younger generation did not support us. But look what happened. When the case started, they attacked the song. The younger generation, they attacked the song and said, this is one of the reasons, because people are imitating the song. and the song was removed from the social media. So why shouldn't we have this alert from the beginning? We are the consumers. We are not going to consume bad media. We're not going to consume bad songs. We're not going to take and click YouTube to show, and the people behind the YouTube would get more money. We have to have a consumer ethics as well to protect the younger generation, and to have the renewal culture and discourse. And maybe this would be a topic to actually raise with media experts and artists as well. And you have great artists that they can join this session. Thank you very much, Amina.
Thank you, Dr. Maya, about this consumer ethics thing. Thank you so much. Going to Mr. Ricciardone, please give us your thoughts regarding that. And another mini question addressed to you from one of our journalist colleagues here. If you have like a specific number regarding the number of cases that have been filed at AUC, say within the past year, on sexual harassment cases, that would be useful. Thank you.
First on the larger question of the role of media and drama in renewing the culture continuously, in cultural discourse, I would say it's not only important, it's absolutely central. It's about storytelling. Part of empowerment is giving people voice, the ability to tell their stories and lay them out in a way that is truthful and accurate and compelling. Drama is one of those. This is actually one of Egypt's strengths as a cultural superpower in the world throughout the millennia, but even in our modern times. When I was studying Arabic, when I was preparing to come to Egypt decades ago as a young diplomat, we were watching the movies of Yusuf Shaheen. I remember watching Uridu Halan, and it led to Jihan's Law, I Want a Divorce. And it led to a law called Jihan's Law that made it easier for women to get to divorce. That was pure Egyptian. It came from Egypt, from inside. The ability to tell compelling stories about the people of Egypt is influential in advancing its own culture, but it goes beyond Egypt to the rest of the Arabic-speaking world, and then those of us from outside who just find it so attractive and compelling. At AUC, we do drama as well. In fact, this past year we had a wonderful a modern rendition of a classical Greek play all about women's empowerment that was really quite compelling. And you know, our male students participate in these as well as the females. Our design programs, you should see our student artistic exhibits at the end of every term, whether in art and design. A lot of them are on gender roles or on larger social issues like poverty mapping. Really incredibly ingenious and creative things that help bring an awareness. And these, it isn't just our art students, the other students come, their parents come, and they see this awareness that's expressed through drama and the humanities, which are at the core of the liberal arts experience of AUC. So that cultural awareness is something we try to develop through numerous disciplines. It isn't only a sociological study of you know, the numbers of women and how women have been held back economically, et cetera. That too, the sociology of gender inequality is something we teach, the science of that, but we use media to raise the awareness of all. And as I say, Egypt is just, it has always been among humankind a hot spot for creativity in the arts and expression. That's a strength of Egyptian culture, and we at AUC work within that. On the number of cases, I don't have a specific number. I've been asking for that, partly because some of the cases have not come formally in terms of formal complaints of sexual harassment. The numbers are low. I don't take that as a good sign necessarily. Because the reporting is low doesn't mean to me that necessarily we don't have a problem or we don't have an issue. It means we've got to do more to promote reporting and complaints. And only when I'm satisfied, if I'm ever satisfied, that we've got a really great culture of reporting and complaining effectively. Egyptians love to complain. All people love to complain. we have to teach people to complain effectively, complain with impact. Don't just vaguely go blaming everybody for all your problems. Be very specific about what happened, when, where, why, how, who, and make sure you go to the right place where it will be recorded and acted on. So I think our number of cases of sexual harassment complaints, formal complaints, is low, a handful. As I say, in my 4 years, I don't think we've had more than a couple dozen, if that, of formal complaints. Rumors on rate your AUC professors or rumors in the social media, sure, there must be a lot of that, but those are not things we can act on. We can only act when people come and say, I experienced this on that date from that person, or I witnessed this, I wasn't the victim, or my good friend told me that she experienced this, she's terrified, she doesn't want me to tell you her name, but this is what happened by this perpetrator at that time. So numbers low, that doesn't mean the problem is low.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ricciardone. And unfortunately, we ran out of time, but I think we can have just final 2 minutes, 1 minute each to our honorable speakers today. I will ask you, Dr. Maya, to give a final remark, but maybe I will guide you, if I may, and borrowing from Mr. Ricciardone is what he said now, this wonderful thing about having a culture of complaining effectively. Can we borrow this and then add it to when can we say that Egypt is successful, has been successful when it comes to combating sexual harassment? And this will be our final remark, and then we go to Mr. Ricciardone.
Actually, when people know that there is a law and they complain effectively as well. So we have cases, we have a victim, and we have a criminal that is, and we have announcements. And what we are seeing right now, Amina, is that girls are not, they will not report. They will report, actually. They are very fearful to send their reports and to take the case to the police station or to the National Council for Women or to the general prosecutor. They are determined. And when we see this happening frequently for a while, I will tell you then that the men are not going to be taking it lightly. Because why they are taking it lightly? Because women are not reporting and we have less reports. And because we have less reports, they are taking the space that they are safe. Even if they are doing this crime, they are safe. No one is going to report. With the last law of keeping confidentiality of the names and of the info of the victim, girls are going to put their cases more and complain effectively. And I'm expecting that the cases the awareness will be created and the cases will be less. If there is a problem, there is a law, there is a crime, and that the crime is having a court verdict, cases will be less, I'm sure, because they didn't know before.
Thank you very much. Going to finally to Mr. Ricciardone, again, your final remark, and if you can just say something when the social media and the headlines just, moves on away from the current incident, is AUC going to keep on its policy towards zero tolerance sexual discrimination?
Yes, absolutely, because we had that policy before this latest incident came up, and we will have it going forward. That's an important phrase, an important policy, what we don't tolerate, what we're against. We're all against sexual harassment. I tend to be a person, an optimistic person. I believe most people want to do the right thing most of the time. Look at all that we are for, and look at what we have accomplished. I'm very proud of the fact that AUC for generations has graduated people like Amina Khairy and Maya Morsy, and Rania Mashat and Sahan Nasser and Ghada Wali didn't graduate but was one of our students. We lost her to foreign study before she completed her time with us. We produce strong women and strong men who respect women and work well with women. That's what we've been known for. That's what we'll continue to do. If you're an ambitious student, male or female, and you want to learn how to work more with others, come to AUC and let your ambition loose. Provided you respect others, there'll be no restraints on what you can accomplish. And that's whether you're a young woman or a young man. To parents, send us your daughters, send us that you want to learn to work with your daughters. And we're glad to have both. So I think AUC is just a wonderful place to come to be a student. If not only if you're an Egyptian, but if you're an American and you want to come and learn about the Arab and Muslim world, or the world of Coptic Christianity and others, come to Egypt, come to AUC. It's a safe, more than a safe place. It's a place where you can learn things and experience the world in just a unique and special way. Look at the people who are on this program. I didn't graduate from AUC, but you are graduates, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ricciardone, for such a powerful and positive and optimistic way to end this session today. Of course, I thank very much our Honorable Dr. Maya Morsy, who is an AUC alumna and the President of the National Council for Women. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Ricciardone, AUC President. And of course, I have to thank our dear listeners and